I really am high atop the mountaintop of Mount Manitoba because, man, it looks like I'm in the Himalayas here, just the way the whole light's reflecting. But if I spin it around like a record baby, right round, 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 then you'd see my kitchen. And I don't know. This is just the most comfortable spot here to do this. I dragged on, but I'm Kirk Buchner. I operate NotInHallOfFame.com, the fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame, the fictitious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and of course, the United States Athletic Hall of Fame, where you can vote right now, www.nothalloffame.com/USA. Easy to remember. And with me, as always, is Glenn Paslawski, the intercontinental triathlete champion of the world. He is the greatest triathlete ever to come out of Western New York, maybe the entire state. And he successfully defended that title in Antarctica, meaning he's now the intercontinental champion.
Yes, I believe I had to conquer Ricky the Dragon Steamboat for that intercontinental belt.
That could very well be possible. His real name is Richard Blood.
I did know that, yes.
Yeah, so I guess if he was a heel, he should have been called Dick Blood. I don't know. That would have been interesting.
Sure, absolutely.
Well, this is the Classic Sports Review. Kind of.
It's a sport. There's athleticism involved to some degree.
There is athleticism. My late 80s pro wrestling and current pro wrestling love is really on full display here because we're looking at roller games, scripted roller derby. And I remember watching this as a kid. Would have been 17. They aired it on Saturday nights, and I had no dates, so I was watching this at home. Didn't become a winner till much later in life. Debatable? Okay, maybe.
I'm not going to comment. Hey, you run the show here. You are the CEO of Not in Hall of Fame. If that's not the tip of the mountain.
I run the show, yes, but I clearly must have issues of some kind because I just poured Jack Daniels, and it's 11 in the morning as we're doing this.
5 o'clock somewhere.
5 o'clock somewhere. Yeah. I never understood the appeal of Mr. Buffett. We could go into that another time, but we're looking at a syndicated program called Roller Games, which in some ways, this is super awesome. In some ways, this is super cheesy. In some ways, it's super lame.
Yeah. I mean, the concept was fabulous, especially if you grew up watching like the original roller derby, which for me was Saturday mornings. You'd either have some combination of roller derby leading into wrestling or wrestling leading into roller derby. You had the oval track. You had these skaters going as fast as they could. You had the big guys throwing people around. That was entertaining, and there was potential for roller games to go along those lines. It seems they went into a more dramatic direction than a sport.
They did. I never watched the original roller derby for whatever reason. Although our TV, because I grew up in Burlington, Ontario, and you grew up in Buffalo, right? So that would have overlapped somehow. But I don't remember roller derby on TV.
I want to say it was, if you remember WTV Channel 29, if you got your bunny ears. Yeah, I want to say 11 a.m., 12 p.m. was that crossover of roller derby leading into, I think at the time, WA was in our region before WWF took over. And then later on, TBS obviously pumped out the national NWA wrestling. Yeah, so that was my Saturday mornings. And then TBS Saturday night when I was a wee little person.
A wee little triathlete.
Yes.
You were just a biathlete then.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Sure, why not? It's Buffalo, it's flat, it's possible. You're American, you shoot things. It's very, very possible.
We cross country ski, yes.
Yeah, there you go. Believe it or not, that was the only sport I was really good at.
Cross country skiing or biathlon?
Cross country skiing.
Okay.
Yeah. I never shot anything before in my life.
Well, then you couldn't be a biathlete.
No, I couldn't have been. Syndication was a fun time. I'm trying to explain it to the young folk what syndication is. First off,
I didn't even.
I
but
don't
they
even know.
don't know what it is.
Most of them don't even know what television is.
True, true.
But back in the day, syndicate, we had three main networks, and there was a fourth with Fox. And companies decided, there's all these little independent channels that just need to fill time, including the networks for that matter, because they only ran those network shows at night. So I don't know why it took so long for this to even become a thing. It really didn't explode until the 80s. So around by 1989, syndication was in full force, and American Gladiators came out around the same time. I don't know if you watched the American Gladiators documentary or docuseries on Netflix. If not,
I did not see that.
Yeah, because they referenced how they thought they were going to get destroyed by roller games, and they kind of did in the ratings. This was actually a ratings hit, even though it lasted 1 year.
Really?
Yeah, no, it did well in the ratings. The only reason it didn't continue is the parent company went bankrupt.
And no one picked it up.
Well, they couldn't afford to produce it, so there was nothing to pick up.
I mean, and what's to? I mean, it was in air hangar. I can't imagine bleachers being that expensive. I don't think. Well, you know what it was? It was the alligator that blew the budget wide open.
Probably. Well, there was. You're still paying a lot of talent. Now you're paying the production on this was pretty slick. So this wasn't cheap to produce. Lots of cuts, lots of B-roll for interesting things that they were doing that we'll be talking about. So this couldn't have been cheap. According to what I read, they didn't go under because of this. So maybe it was just the whole company was badly managed. So it could have been something else completely different. But they got ratings that are higher than pro wrestling now, 4.4 in some markets, which is really good. When it did get picked up for syndication, according to Wikipedia, and it's on Wikipedia, it's got to be true, but it says 95% of the United States had it. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's coverage.
So it didn't fail because people weren't watching it. It just failed because of mismanagement through ways I don't know. But through this ran in 1989 to 1990. And I wrote down that this is like the perfect combination, or imperfect, right? I don't know if this is a perfect combination that you want, but of roller derby, hair metal, and pro wrestling.
That's fairly accurate.
This was not, and it was pro wrestling in the form that it was definitely predetermined.
Yes.
There was a lot of throwing their own bodies in places that could not possibly happen. The laws of physics be damned. Self-propulsion was certainly the course of the day, and apparently the best athlete on the course was somebody who is shorter than me, older than me, and fatter than me.
Yeah, Hall of Famer.
Well, in theory.
I think
I know my Hall of Fames. He did not become a Hall of Famer until 2004.
You're right, yes. But yeah, at the time when they were touting him as a Hall of Famer, should be in the Hall of Fame, there was a large break in the roller sports Hall of Fame induction. And yeah, not until 2004. And I think at that point he was had already passed into the roller derby in the sky.
Right. Yeah. Right now he's avoiding that alligator pit. Actually, they all avoided that alligator pit. This is not how. There's a couple. I remember watching this, but like when I was younger. But watching that with ancient eyes now, it sure looks a lot different.
Yes, it does. I mean, it brought back memories, and I vaguely remember it. But when they were trying to tippy toe across the 2-point line and the 6-point line on that wall, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yep.
And yeah, I want to say I enjoyed it as a kid, but yeah, looking back at it now, it's like, ooh, some of it's really cringeworthy.
A lot of it is. Well, our first graphic, you're already hooked in. It's calling for war. Well, not really. It's the World Alliance of Roller Sports. There is no actual World Alliance of Roller Sports, so this is our first of many things that are colossal bullshit, but whatever. Actually, within the 10 seconds, we get our second lie. We are coming from the world famous Super Roller Dome.
Roller Dome.
No. But we have a lot of cheerleaders, and we have our little montage as the announcers have the voiceover. Can Mr. Mean outlast the wall of death? Can Darla Star the Star outlast Sweet Stephanie in a hair-pulling punch-out? Yeah. Plus, oh no, the devastating alligator pit. They did say, oh no.
No, I think it would have been better if the jump where they have to jump across to get their 2 points or their 6 points to go across the line, if that's where they had the alligator pits, that would have been fantastic.
That's what I thought, but clearly I misremembered all of this. I wrote down that the opening is pretty slick because I'm not putting it on a 2023 standards, but on a 1989 standard. And for that look, it looks fantastic, and it should be. The producer is Chet Forte. Do you know him?
I do not know him.
All right, he was the producer for 18 years on Monday Night Football, from 1970 to 1987. Basically lost his job because he was a degenerate gambler. He was the master of something called the honey shot. I didn't know what that was. So what he would do is like before games, he would like go up to very attractive women like, so what do you want to do to be on camera?
But that didn't get him fired. It was his gambling.
Well, I think it was the combination thereof. So, I don't know, obviously, all the details of it, but I read Howard Cosell's book. He says that Chet was a wonderful producer, and apparently one time he bailed him out on gambling debt just to take care of him. But like Chet was apparently the one who was feeding all, like if Howard ever looked super intelligent, it was usually because Chet fed him a line.
Okay.
From something he knew. But Chet, yeah, it was like, you want to get on TV? Here you go. And if you think about it, like how many times did we watch like some of these old sports, and they're always sort of going on some attractive woman that we never saw whenever we went to the game.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, and usually with the commentator going, well, I'd like to. I'll leave it at that. I mean, like, I think we all sort of know.
Another past episodes of sports commentators saying interesting things about what they're going to take away from the Winnipeg Arena.
Yes.
Yeah. Debbie Allen and her exploits at Battle of the Network Stars.
Well, yeah, but to be fair, that was Debbie sort of being Debbie.
True.
I think Debbie was
Howard Cosell doing Howard Cosell things.
That's true. That's true. Howard Cosell was a lech. Well, I don't know if he was a lech, but he sure played one on TV. Like apparently he was like super dedicated to his wife, but I don't know. I got to find where Howard Cosell guest hosted Saturday Night Live.
Oh, I did not know that.
I just remember one sketch that's coming right to mind where he played the uncle of Martin Short's character, Ed Grimley.
Okay.
Like he wore the same thing and goes, "It is good, I must say," or something like that. He just didn't change his cadence at all.
So he's Howard Cosell being Howard Cosell, basically.
Yeah, but Howard is still one of my he is my all-time favorite broadcaster of all time. Well, I'll say this for this show. In 1 minute, you knew that this was different than anything else on television. You knew what its inspiration was, but it didn't necessarily have a peer, including any other roller derby that may have existed. And if you didn't know that, they did a history piece showing footage from the 1930s and saying how it's gone unchanged until now. It's a figure eight. We have an elevated wall and a jump. Mm-hmm. Well, welcomed by Chuck Underwood and David Sams, neither of whom ever did seem to have done anything ever again.
No, and listening to David Sams, all I could think about was that high-pitched news reporter in The Simpsons talking about natural disasters or traffic accidents on The Simpsons. That's what his voice was.
Arnie Pie in the sky.
Yeah, that's what I just couldn't get that out of my mind, that this is what he sounds like.
Well, he was also one of the executive producers, so I guess he decided.
When I said he's an executive producer, basically in charge of those whole thing.
I wrote down that he looked like Kenny Loggins from Danger Zone.
Yeah, I got that hair and that beard. It's just typical 80s. It just screams it.
Gonna take a ride into the danger zone. This is why I'm not a singer.
And then I want to, when they pan the crowd. What's his name? Mr. Smokey and the Bandit. I thought there was a Florida State's football player. Why can't I think of his name?
Burt Reynolds?
Yes, looked like there was a Burt Reynolds lookalike.
I caught that. I think I caught where there was a George Michael lookalike too.
George Michael of Wham or George Michael Sports Machine?
George Michael Wham.
I'm sorry. I'm going away now.
I caught that, but I think that's where they were pretty clever. They didn't even acknowledge it because then it would be too obvious. They wanted people to sort of think, wait,
there's stars in this arena.
Well, look, exactly. There's got to be a lot of crowd sweetening because they were always seemed to be the same pitch of excitement no matter what was going on. But an hour earlier before broadcast, the alligator got loose. And there's only one man who can take care of it, and it's Animal, who looks like a Fabio. He's a Fabio knockoff, and he can barely speak. He's a typical himbo. And if it sounds like I'm jealous, yeah, I wish I looked like that. Especially,
did you look him up on Wikipedia, see what he looks like today?
I couldn't find him. He didn't have a reference.
Like, I'm sure he fell apart.
Like, I couldn't find it. Winnie, could you find it? This is our other co-host, Winnie the Mini Dachshund. What's that? You think there should have been a mini Dachshund pit? That would have been better.
It would have been more dangerous, for sure.
It would have been more dangerous. Well, it might have been more interaction than what we actually got, but Animal was the only one who could take care of the alligators. Actually, he isn't taking care of the alligators at all. There's a bunch of other people doing it, and he just sort of helps put the little ribbon around
electrical tape.
Yeah, the electrical tape. Thank you. The electrical tape around the alligator's jaws. This wasn't the biggest alligator that I've ever seen, but I've seen bigger ones when I did mini putt in Orlando.
Yes, you did. Yes. Yeah, they're big down there in South Carolina. Yeah, that's one reason why I'll never move south, because everything down there can kill you.
Well, what it doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Well, no, they'll kill you.
You moved as far south as you can get. Twice.
Yeah, but the penguins and the seals aren't going to kill me.
What if it's a killer penguin?
There are no killer penguins.
Wasn't Dave Schultz a penguin at the end of his career? No, I don't know. I don't know if he was. Who's Pittsburgh's biggest tough guy? I don't know. I went off topic again. Well, yeah. So we get to meet all the participants who are going around the figure eight. Up first, we have the world famous T-Birds, named after the famous Los Angeles T-Birds, the original one. What we know about them right away is that they're all American because they're all decked in red, white, and blue, and they're waving flags. So they love America.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have managers. This one is Bill Griffiths Jr. He looks like an accountant, but he was actually a former skater himself and was the roller derby. I swear, I've only had one sip of Jack.
Lies.
Yeah. Not lying. The roller derby coordinator on Kansas City Bomber. Did you ever see that movie?
I did not.
It was Raquel Welch at her third hottest.
Oh, okay.
The first being the caveman, the second being the caveman thing, whatever that was, or cave girl. It was that good. I don't know what to tell you. Up next, we have the Violators. You know how we know they're evil? They're dressed in black. And they're looking mean in the camera. And they're managed by Chuck Skull. I guess he's a biker. Guess. I don't know. Well, we have the...
Yeah, he's got to get up.
I guess. Well, then we have the Rockers. They're dressed in purple and leopard prints, and they carry guitars.
And they rock and roll.
And they rock and roll.
In the program with their rock and roll segment and their stellar guitar playing.
Oh, I can't wait till we get to that. Their manager isn't a manager. It's an entertainment attorney, DJ Trigno. Well, DJ looks like one of those rejects from Dynasty in a way, you know, with the big shoulder pads and sort of the short coiffed hair. I mean, she looks like she would go one-on-one with Alexis. And yes, I watched Dynasty. I'd love to watch all that shit again.
I'm sure there's a way you can.
Yeah, because my life isn't empty enough. Yeah, I'd explain to somebody what are you going to be doing today? Well, I'm going to be watching a syndicated show from 1989 and a football game from 1973. That's my day.
Take notes on it, research it.
Yeah,
Later on, do a podcast about it.
absolutely. Did I ever tell you what happened to me one time in Barbados?
What happened to you that one time in Barbados?
That one time in band camp. But no, I was I went to a dinner party. I think I told you this. Stop me if I have. And it was somebody who my wife knew because she worked with her on a company that she owned that helped get VIPs in through Barbados Airport without having to go through a lot of bullshit.
Okay.
So it was they would go through that they would get fast passed through the airport right to the hotel. And but that person, she pretty much had that business based on her husband, who pretty much owned almost everything on that island.
Must be nice.
Yeah, so she was kind of a trophy wife. I guess it is. I mean, she's 40, he's near death.
Well, I mean, let's face it. When you were in Barbados, you were the trophy husband.
I was a trophy husband, but I didn't have this giant house like this person had.
Baby steps.
Yeah, there we go. I'm working towards that. Shit, this is my business. My God. If I eat anymore, my boobs will be just as big. Damn.
Wonderful visual.
Sorry. Anyway, so I'm there. His right hand is there, who in addition to being the right hand of virtually all these businesses in Barbados, is the chairman of some clean energy commission in all of the Caribbean. Also there is the U.S. ambassador and me in terms of the men. So they asked me, so Kirk, what do you do? Well, true story, that's how I answered it. Tonight, I'm doing a podcast about meatloaf.
Did they think it was food or the musician?
They knew it was the musician.
Okay, but that's a positive.
I will say this: none of them treated me like I was this complete scrub, which compared to those guys, I totally was.
It's on how you see things.
But I can honestly say that they were hanging on all my words, or at least that's how I remembered it.
And how many cocktails did you have prior to this conversation?
I didn't have too many because I had to do a podcast that night.
Because sobriety is your key component to all your podcasts.
Okay, I had a few. What do you have next? Bad attitude. Well, we know they're bad because they have a bad attitude. And they're managed by a legend, Georgia Haas.
Yeah, I remember her.
See, I didn't know who that was, but
old school roller derby days. Yeah, she carried that character all throughout her career.
Yeah, so she was part of that original one from 60 to 75. They create a fictional backstory that she wants to get revenge on the T-Birds because she didn't make the team in 1960.
Right.
She is only 53 here.
And how old do you think she looked? I thought early 70s, easy. Yeah.
I wrote down I look good. Also thought she there's a lot of Marge shot in this woman.
Yes, now that you mention it, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Kids, look that one up. You'll see that we're right. Up next is the Hot Flash. The Hot Flash. You're naming your team after something that menopausal women complain about. What the? Okay. Well, they're all pink and they're from Hollywood, and we didn't see much of this guy because they weren't here, but it's Juan Valdez Lopez, a real fat guy who wore a captain's hat. I'm guessing he's gay, or he was acting gay, and he's the ultimate party animal. I wrote down, I don't want to hang out with this guy. Not because I think he might be gay, just because I don't think he would have a party that I would enjoy. That didn't sound any better, did it?
No, it didn't.
All right. Send your letters to. It's not how I meant it. And finally, the Maniacs. Again, they're in black. And the commentators say they look to astrology for their game plan. That always works out well. And they're managed by Guru Drew, and I know he's a guru because he's wearing a turban.
Yeah.
Well, they're all posing in the figure eight, and then we see some goofball singing around. But we're going to get to him later.
He
Uh,
gets a whole like 5 minute segment to perform his song.
yeah, I wrote down that he borrowed Brutus Beefcake's outfit.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, that's very accurate. And during the hairband era, why they couldn't find someone that actually had hair to do the singing is beyond me.
He had a lot of hair, just wasn't in the certain spots.
No, yeah.
Well, we go to sideline reporter Shelly Jameson. Now, she actually was one of the most successful of all of these people.
Yes, she was.
She was a former Playboy model of that year. She would and later have a career broadcasting a little bit, and I don't know what she's doing now, but
that is she didn't tell anyone that she was doing the Playboy spread. And in an interview, she said, "Yeah, I'm probably going to either get fired or have to quit, but I really don't care because the $100,000 for this Playboy shoot is worth 5 years of broadcast pay." So I'm like, "Wow, okay, you go, girl." So
okay,
yeah,
I didn't see
she
that.
was done with that. And then I guess later on, she became a firefighter and became spokesperson for Arizona FEMA.
Yeah, I mean that's not
That's big
that's no
time.
small feat. It's not known or not whether all the people under her sort of like looked for July 1989 Playboy, but
Oh, of course, it's the
no,
first thing I looked up.
I wouldn't have done that.
Lies.
Well, Shelley's got a whole lot to say. She says that some of the bands who would later appear in this were really nervous about the alligators. Lita Ford and Debbie Harry were on edge. Okay. Warrant said it would not that it wouldn't be like heaven. Cherry Pie didn't come out yet, so she couldn't reference that. Well, we've got tonight. It's the Commissioner's Cup, and 6 teams have began a tournament that I'm sure really happened. But we only have 2 semis. Sadly, Hot Flashing Maniacs will not be there. Oh well, that's too bad.
Yeah, I want to see video of that. And they're also talking about the previous year's champions, and that's just gets okay. We'll go with the story.
Well, it's like you as an Intercontinental champion know that Pat Patterson didn't really win his first Intercontinental title in Rio de Janeiro in a tournament. That this is right up there with that.
It's right on par with what I do.
Well, we're going to get right into the T-Birds versus Bad Attitude. We're finally told some rules. The one who wearing the helmet is the only one who can score. And we learn about the points. You get 6 points if you do 3 strides above the top line, 2 points on the line below. Having said that, they were not really consistent with this at all. And 2 points if you jump over, like there's a jump and you get over the line. Again, the consistency here is non-existent. It's almost like they were trying to manipulate the results.
Why, you think the end result was planned?
I would not want to say that the World Alliance of Roller Sports would ever do such a thing.
No, that's right up there with the White Sox scandal of the last century.
Or the NCAA with other things.
Yeah.
Well, our first Jetters, and the Jetters are the ones wearing the helmet. We've got Dynamite Daryl Davis for the T-Birds against Bulldog Scott Casto, not Castro, it's Casto. All right. So after the first cycle, apparently we were told that the main grudge to watch, it's Monster Man. Monster Man, I believe was it Harold Jackson or something Jackson? He's brothers with the other Jackson of Mr. Mean. But Monster Man is the rather large black man for Bad Attitude, and Icebox is the larger black man.
Yes, Icebox.
Yes, because that's not inspired by William the Refrigerator Perry at all. What's bigger than a fridge? A box of ice? Can't say the freezer? No?
No. Well, Icebox, I mean, if you look back at, and this is going back to the honeymooner days where Ralph would be going in the Icebox. That Icebox didn't look too big.
Eh, I don't know.
Or maybe I'm just showing my age and going to that icebox version versus the icebox that's out in front of your grocery store with all these bags of ice.
Well, well, we're gonna see more of him later.
We are.
Oh
He's going
God.
to violate some poor bastard.
I think he was violating himself more, frankly, the way he was sort of pinned over. But anyway, we're not getting a lot of regular scores, but okay. After that cycle, Monster after the went well for bad attitude, but Monster Man, he rear naked chokes Dynamite Daryl. He just comes right from behind him and rear naked chokes him. That's not what we expect to see here in the WAR. What? They're breaking rules. How dare they?
Nope.
And then he would do it later to the living legend of Ralphie Valadares, who was 53
Did you know he was only 5'3"?
and 53. But yeah, no, I didn't. I knew he was short, but
I didn't realize he was that short.
he is definitely the only athlete ever who's short, fat, squat, who is successful. This has never happened, or short, fat, squat, and old.
Yeah.
And then late Monster Man, he after he chokes him out, he walks over top of him. Those skates got hurt. What is this? My God, the humanity in this. Well, we meet the starting lineup of Bad Attitude, and it's Monster Man, Bulldog Casto, Dr. Fu, Charlie Saunders, and Todd Stern. T-Birds, it's Ralphie Valadares, Dynamite Daryl, The Icebox, Stars and Stripes, and Speedy Gonzalez. I guess he's Speedy. We have a scoring. What's that?
Slightly quick.
Yes, slightly quick. Well, Speedy sounds better than slightly quick Gonzalez. But less offensive somehow.
I'm sure we'll find plenty of offenses as we go along.
I can guarantee it. Well, we finally have a scoring update. Bad Attitude's winning 15-11. And after the next cycle, where nothing really happened, it's 21-17 Bad Attitude. Our fourth cycle, Monster Man is against Ralphie here. They're both the Jetters, and they get into the pile who are deliberately, they both get around the pile who are just deliberately clustering around each other. Hate it when that happens. And the commentator screaming how Ralphie fought the hard way. He plays by the rules. Well, if we didn't get this banged over our head who the good guys were and who the bad guys were, well, at least we have Mr. Sam's to help us out.
Who the good guys are.
Of course, if there are any rules, none of them are enforced, so what difference does it make?
I think they only had the one referee, and I think Georgia Haas was occupying his time most of the evening.
There's like one, I think, for the men, one for the women, or something. Because there was one with no hair, and there was one who looked like Ralph Cifaretto with the hair in Sopranos, played by Joe.
Well, the one guy I thought looked like could have been George Animal Steel's cousin.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, did they steal George the Animal Steel to do roller derby refereeing?
Why not? It's 89. He was retired. No, he was on the road as an agent.
So I think he was still wrestling.
Maybe. Well, Monster Man takes a sloppy, like a bump from the Iceman, who drops him, and then this is when Iceman drops all his weight, does a splash, and then he turns around with his back. So again, Monster Man is on his back. Mm-hmm. Iceman drops his weight on him, then turns around with his back
and violates.
And then he's jiggling, and the deep freeze, and the way he's jiggling, his ass is near where Monster Man's dick would be.
Yes,
like he's deliberately getting spooned.
Someone was getting sexually assaulted there, and I'm not entirely sure who.
I don't know.
Very disturbing.
It was not right. Well,
and the camera stayed on it for a while. So any children watching this program, Mommy, Daddy, what are the two men doing?
Conservatives, you're worried about drag queens.
That's right.
Look what we got here. Like, oh my God, that was disturbing. But Bad Attitudes got the lead. we're only going to have the men up once and the women up once. It's 28-27 Bad Attitude. We're starting off with Gino Go-Go Gonzalez versus the Brat. Well, Gina's doing much better, and of course, a fight breaks out between Patsy Delgado, oh, she's evil, and Skinny Minnie, who was, I believe, one of the original ones. So we meet the T-Bird women. It's Gina Go-Go Gonzalez, Skinny Minnie, the Corker, Debbie McCorkle, Electric Randy. What kind of was feeling Electric Randy there?
I like that name, huh?
Yeah. And one of the twins, Christine Van Galder. We're told that there's a story between her and her twin sister, and we'll find that out in a moment, but we never did. I looked up what it was. In future episodes, Georgia Haas said that they were drafted unfairly by drafting them together. So one of them was forced to be a violator and the other was forced to be a maniac.
Okay.
Or something about it. Or yes. That Georgia Haas, she's not a nice person, let me tell you.
Oh, she's an evil person.
She's an evil person.
But she did eventually get hers, which was pretty hysterical.
Oh, God. There's a second cycle between someone named Hot Rod, who does well against McCorkle. They're saying that she has an injured ankle, maybe because McCorkle sucks and she keeps falling, and the commentators dubbed in later. Is my guess.
She's supposed to be in a cast, but she's out there gritting it out.
When we meet the Bad Attitude lineup, it's Patty Delgado, Lila, is that her name? Lyle Morse, Hot Rod, Marnie Smith, and Gail Bowers. Bad Attitude has extended their lead to 6. Then we say we're going to learn more about the T-Bird twins, but again, we don't. After the next cycle, it's 50-47, and what? Georgia's slapping Bill Griffiths Jr. What is this? We don't see this in sports. God damn it! I'm just looking at my Super Bowl 7 right now. And John Shula didn't walk across and slap George Allen in the head. That didn't happen. Well, maybe it will happen. I haven't finished the game yet. I'll let you know if it does.
Newsflash, I bet it doesn't.
Well, in the next cycle, the Jetters both deliberately fall at the jump. Delgado allows Randy to throw her over the barrier. Just sort of look like every scene in a battle royal.
Well, wait, that was the classic roller derby move. You're coming around fast, you lose control, you get the slight bump, and you go up and over to the floor.
Well, and upon the loop, that's Electric Randy who did that. Randy drops her again as she's coming off the railing. Just like, stay down there, bitch. She didn't say that. That would not be family friendly, but that's sort of what was implied. And the T-Birds win. Georgia's not having any of this. She's attacking the T-Birds. She's attacking Skinny Minnie from behind. Well, Electric Randy, she's had enough, and she clocks Patsy Delgado and then Georgia Haas. Oh my God! And Skinny Minnie drops 2 double knees on Georgia. Oh my!
That was hysterical. Like, okay, she's done. This 70-year-old bitch is done.
Yes. Skinny Minnie might have been older.
Probably.
Because what she's been doing it for like 20 years, and she didn't look over 30, but she had to be. I mean, she had to be closer to 40, I would think. Because I found old footage of her in 75.
And okay, so yeah, that's what, 15 years prior?
Yeah.
So yeah, figured, yeah, got to be pushing 40, 45 at least.
Yeah, had to be. You'd never know it looking at her. Well, Shirley Jameson, she interviews Electric Randy and Skinny Minnie on their hard-fought victory, and we learned nothing. Now we have Wally George giving analysis. I knew of this guy, but I didn't know much about him.
Now, be honest with me. When his set came up, didn't you think like late 70s, early 80s ESPN set that they probably stole? Kind of like a Cosmo Kramer thing, stealing the Merv Griffin set out of the garbage. I guarantee that Roller Games was hanging out behind the ESPN studios and stole their set.
What's possible? I never thought of that, but that makes a lot of sense. Well, apparently this guy was a local talk show host in California for years. Apparently he was the precursor to like the Morton Downey Jr., Jerry Springer style.
You could pick up some of that.
Yeah. And he had 6 kids. Did you see who one of them was?
No, I did not.
Rebecca De Mornay.
Really? Wow.
Rebecca De Mornay.
Yeah.
Damn.
That. Yeah, I'm speechless.
Yeah. Apparently she sued him, or he sued her, because somehow it went to the Inquirer that she said Wally George was a bigamist. Well, he did have 6. He had 6 kids. He also had 6 different wives at one point.
Well, I mean, if I pull out Webster's, it's pretty much not the clear-cut definition, but he's right up there.
So we'll be putting an image of Wally George. Tell me, kids, how the hell did he manage 6 wives? Obviously, one of them had to be pretty hot because
Rebecca De Mornay.
Right.
I'm guessing there may have been alcohol involved. He may or may not have hung around with Bill Cosby. That may be in bad taste, but hey, that was the era. I'm just saying.
Bill never married him.
This is true.
Bill's wife was just complicit. What'd you do tonight, Bill? Well, no, I got no. Well, he's interviewing Georgia Haas, and she says she's got a surprise for the T-Bird twins, which that's what it was. And apparently a surprise for Ralphie. We never found out what that was, but I can tell you what it was. Ralphie is a storyline is that Ralphie's gonna go into the Hall of Fame. But George has found found something in the bylaws of the WAR that says you can't be in the Hall of Fame and be an active participant. Apparently they were working to an end thing where it was going to be Ralphie going 1-on-3 against the 3 evil managers.
Oh,
but that never happened. So, oh,
see, that's what happens when you end seasons on cliffhangers and then you get canceled.
Yeah, I think like what sort of well, I didn't watch Westworld because I heard it. Well, I didn't force myself to watch season 4, and then it didn't make to season 5. So
right,
the Firefly I think was like that.
Yeah, there's 2 seasons or just the 1 season?
I think the 1, and then they had to come back and do a movie, which they did. I'm sure that right after I do this, will be like, yeah, this show. We never found out how it was supposed to play out, but oh well. The Rockers come out for their match, and we get vignettes. We learn about them, and I wrote down, why do I want to cheer for these assholes? They're more concerned with being rock stars. They're not about this sport. If we thought that about, like, if you're a Buffalo Sabres fan, if you thought that Tage Thompson, or in French, Tage Thompson.
Is that what they call him up north?
Yeah, well, eastern part, Tage. But if you thought that Tage was more interested in being a Hollywood star, you would not be enamored with that, would you?
No, not at all.
Or if he was Tage and he says, no, I'm Tage. And I want to Winnie. All right, when he's done with this show.
We lost a co-host.
I lost the co-host, yeah. Oh well. So much for that. But yeah, so why do I want to cheer for them? Dar the Star is apparently the lead singer of some band, and is this where we saw their actual vignette here on this? Or was that
we're somewhere along the lines we see them shredding on the guitar?
I think did that come later? Because I wrote that down, but that anyway, that's why they have an entertainment manager, because they want to be rock stars. If not, we'll get back to it. The sideline reporter lets us know that Animal has the alligator under control. Sure he does. And we finally found out that why the alligator is there. We don't even know why. It's only in the event of a sudden death playoff. Man, I wonder if that's going to happen. I hope not, because there's no room for alligators in sports.
Well, was this the period, or did it happen later on when they were talking about Bob Barker's got to be upset with this animal cruelty? I'm like, what the hell is Bob Barker going to do? Come out of nowhere and spay and neuter these alligators or crocodiles?
He was only worried about overpopulation. I don't think he really cared he never once said, take care of your pets. He says, just don't have too many of them.
Spay and neuter them.
You know, like,
and I guess that's what animal has to do. He's got to do some spay and neutering.
He might have been just too upset that there were so many like wandering around his Malibu house.
Could be.
We don't know for sure that he was a good guy about this sort of thing.
Are there alligators in Malibu?
Well, I don't know. Maybe a lot of dogs and cats. That's why he was worried about it.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's it.
I've never been to Malibu.
Neither have I.
There you go. Well, the Violators come out, and we learn that Skull used to be the bodyguard of Georgia Haas. And as he's doing his whip, they dub in a little soft whip noise. Not too loud, not too obvious, but just enough so that you could hear it. A lot better than when, remember the Mountie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so those kids, Mountie was played by Jacques Rougeau, and he was a Mountie, and he had an electric cattle prod. And after he would beat his opponent with it, he would stick it in his opponent, and then they would dub in. And I went to a match, and I didn't hear shit. Must not have been working well that day. The guy he did it to was really hurting, though. I don't know. He must have jammed it really hard. The women start.
Love the gimmicks. Love the gimmicks.
Yeah. Well, the women start this one, and it's Deadly Debbie versus the Flea, and the Violators lead the 6-5. We meet the Rockers roster. It's Dar the Star, Queenie Cromie, Debbie Van Doren, Lolly Waterman, and Donna Young. Next cycle is Queenie Cromie versus Sweet Stephanie. Sweet Stephanie, she's not very nice.
No, she's not sweet at all.
No, it's like another wrestling thing. Sensuous Sherry wasn't always that sensuous.
She went a little heavy on the makeup later on in her career, and that just didn't look good on her.
Wait a minute. Sweet Stephanie, Sensational Sherry, SS, same year.
Have you ever seen both of them in the same room at the same time?
Or George Animal Steel and that other guy.
Wow. I'm just blown away now. I'm going to be Googling when we're done with this.
Well, Sweet Stephanie drives Queenie over the railing, and she uses an underhanded tactic to gain points. The Violators line up as Sweet Stephanie, Paula the Flea, Nancy Wilkinson, Lauren Hollowell, and Vicky Orgel. I wrote down, I don't know if Paula the Flea has a lot of body hair, but I'm not saying she doesn't.
Well, I mean, do fleas have body hair, or do they just attach to the flea, or do you think the fleas are attaching to her, and that's how she got the nickname?
She's 4'11", so I guess that's sort of where it comes from. But I'm just saying I'm not trying to like body hair shame people. I'm just saying this is possible.
So, you of all people should not be body shaming.
Me, definitely not. I mean, like if you put me in a side profile with a Smurf, it wouldn't be that far off. So,
well, better the Smurf than Gargamel.
I'm telling you, I told you before, the Smurfs were communist. Looking at past episode, I laid out perfectly.
We've had this discussion before.
We did. Well, after the third cycle, the Violators are leading 17-13, and Flea's trying to pick a fight. It didn't happen, but it's going to be Dar the Star versus Sweet Stephanie. Dar wallops Sweet Stephanie after the jump, and she takes a huge spill under the railing. So she does this great dive under as she's knocked over.
Fall. That I'll give her.
A lot of them could. It's like the best ones here weren't necessarily the best skaters, just the ones who were willing to take the most risks and take like wrestlers like bumps.
Right.
Like I wonder what Mr. Mean's looking like today, or if he's still like his knees have got to be non-existent because he was another original.
Yeah.
So he had to have been at least 40 because they said he was the 1970 Rookie of the Year. And I looked up; he really was skating in 1970. So,
well, yeah, I mean, if you go down the list of the roller, I think it's the roller games Hall of Fame. There were a few of them that were in this episode in this season. Because I thought they were just full of it. Really, there's a roller Hall of Fame, and sure enough, it's there.
Well, we get an in-depth look at the world of the Rockers. Now here's where it comes. Well, here's what we learned. They like to party on the Sunset Strip, where they exit limos in front of paid extras.
Now, did you like the camera angles where they were tight in on all the fans, so they would only have to have like 10 people there to do this fan arrival? That was just
Great.
awesome. And I can't be sure, but I think the rockers were just on one side of the limo, and they
Mhm.
would just go through and come out the other side. So I don't think.
Did we even see where they were entering?
No, I think they just had that tight shot of the limo, and they would just keep, one would get out and then another would get out. It was kind of like a clown car thing, except for a limo.
Yeah, and all their fans looked a lot like people I would just happen to run across in the street while I'm walking here. You know? They didn't have a set look to them. Well, we meet fans of them, and they just say, "Ah, we love the Rockers," and why wouldn't they? They were all people of all ages. None of them look like they knew anything about rock music, but okay.
But
Uh,
when they're doing the concert, they look like they knew how to fake play instruments.
oh yeah, well let's get to that. So as before that, the montage shows all the gold records that somehow they have, and then they were playing music, and I wrote this is the most unrealistic.
They were putting their handprints in the cement on the sidewalk. They have that scene, and they end up pushing the one guy's head into the cement or whatever.
Oh, they're wacky too. They know how to have a good time. So they get these gold records apparently, and then they're playing music, but none of them are actually playing anything.
No, it looked like bad Guitar Hero simulations.
I wrote down this is less realistic than the 1-800 Cars for Kids. I believe they're more likely to have been playing their instruments than these assholes.
And well, I mean, Dar the Star was really belting it out and doing her front woman thing.
Yeah, while someone's like molesting her from behind.
Yeah, the guitar player who was trying to play guitar and trying to molest her at the same time.
You know, I remember when I saw Heart many years ago. They didn't do that to Nancy Wilson, and she was way better looking.
Mm-hmm.
Kids, here's another one. When you're rewatching Fast Times at Ridgemont High, there's two things I want you to point out to you. One, Phoebe Cates coming out of the pool.
Classic paused scene ever.
Mm-hmm. Number two is Nancy Wilson in the car. She's credited as Hot Chicken Car. There we go. If I don't sound like the world's biggest pervert, I don't know what does. I swear I'm happily married and doing particularly well. 1 second here. Sorry about that.
Our co-host.
Yes, our co-host Winnie has decided to play with the other dog and causing all sorts of mischief. She's also a fan of the Rockers, as you may be able to tell. God damn it. You can follow them on Jasper_the Friendly Corgi on Instagram. Might as well just plug that away. I listen to a bunch of other more professional podcasts, and the dogs are up there too. So why not this one? Because again, when you think of professionalism, you think of the Buchnerverse.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. The men begin, and it's Rock and Ray versus Shifty Bob Zendejas. They call him Shifty Zendejas, but they should really just call him Shifty Bob. That sounds better.
Shifty Bob sounds very good.
Yes. The Violators get a lead of 29-28, and we meet the Rocker Men. The California Kid, he's easy to figure out. He's the one with all the hair. Rock and Roll Robles. He apparently was a holdover when TNN did Roller Jams later. So he would show up for that. I never did watch that.
I forgot it existed until you mentioned it.
I forgot about it too until I looked all this stuff up. Brian Jacobson, Bam Bam May, and John Rodriguez. The next cycle, only the Violators jitter gets up to the wall as the Rockers jitter was put in a headlock. I didn't see by who. Robles, the Rockers jitter, was upset about that, and he leaped in the air, and then he did a crotch press to the guy coming in. I don't know how to describe it. He leapt up in the air, hit the guy with his dick, and fell down. I mean, I wrote down that this was a skating dick to the mouth. I don't know how else to describe this.
More sexual assaults in the roller derby ring.
And all self-inflicted.
Uh-huh.
Like, I don't know what to say. I mean, like, I don't think that if both Monster Man and who was it who got this? Like went and said, okay, I just got raped. I don't know how they could win in court. Well, you initiated this.
With video footage, it's tough to tell.
There you go. Well, it's 37-28 violators, and we finally know who the violators men are. It's Mr. Mean, the Enforcer, Tony Trujillo, Killer Roberts, Shifty Zenzejas, and the Hook Ride. I don't know what his first name was. Mr. Mean gets the next cycle, and he dominates. They're up 17-0. Or sorry, by 17 points, 47-30. There's only one cycle left. This looks like it's pretty much set in stone here for the violators. But before that, we got to get a Gator update. Animal says he doesn't understand why there's so much controversy about the alligators. I mean, they're just animals trying to do their thing. After hearing him talk, I wrote down that there's also a lot of other things he doesn't understand. And again, yes, I wish I looked like that.
So you're going to trade your wily intellect for just appearance?
For a 4-year period from 19 to 23, yes.
Okay.
Maybe 19 to 29, and then I'll just take over back at 30. But I had a buddy, Max, and I don't know if you're watching this, man. You basically you look like white Mario Lopez. Just probably ripped even better than, well, maybe not ripped, but almost as big. Like I've been to places with like just him standing there. I said, man, if I look like you and I could still talk like me, then I wouldn't have to talk like me.
This is true.
Yeah. And he's actually just a great guy. Loved him. When I made my first ever television appearance on Sportsnet on unveiling the first ever fictitious athlete Hall of Fame class, I must have done really good because they never had me back. He pretended to be my agent so he could go there. So yeah, I get this great picture of me, him, and Pinball Clemens, which for Canadian,
nice.
It's actually
nice. I know Pinball.
Yeah, Pinball is like one of those. He's like for those who don't know who that is, he's one of the I don't know if he's the best Canadian football player of all time, but he's the most enigmatic. He's
royalty. He's CFL royalty.
Yeah, I mean, I was tall. I'm taller than him, and I'm barely 5'8", but he's just like his name said. He played like a pinball. A buddy of mine told me a story when his car broke down, like a flat tire, and Pinball comes behind and he helps him with the flat tire. I think I told you that too. Yeah, that sounds. Yeah, so
I remember that.
Yeah, all around great guy. Anyway, so our final cycle, it's Robles versus the Enforcer, and the Enforcer takes a tumble. Oh no! So it looks like Robles, maybe he's going to get all these points back. But he can't do enough, and he's shut down by Mr. Mean, who just puts him in a headlock. And he uses what's he doing? He's putting his metal studs in his eyes.
Yeah, just taking off the belt, strangling people.
That's just awful. But I guess that's why they call him Mr. Mean. Well, the Violators win, and I guess we have an intermission. It should also be noted that this was the only episode that ran 2 hours. Everything else was 1 hour. So the commentators are reviewing the alligators and how just awful Georgia is. And then they say the line of the night. We have the alligators. Georgia's awful. What will we have next? Donald Trump as president? I went back twice to make sure I heard right. This is 1989.
I totally missed that line. And then when you pointed it out to me, I'm like, wait a second. The Simpsons got so much credit for predicting Donald Trump's presidency, but we overlooked roller games.
I had to go back and like other people were commenting. So like, shit, I got this right. So I'm trying to think like who Trump was in 89. Like he was just
I think he was going through one of his bankruptcies.
Like
because I know I had in high school, I think my freshman social studies professor was all about Donald Trump, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not going to buy that. He's going to be bankrupt. He's going to come back and blah blah
That was
blah blah
true.
blah."
That turned out to be true.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I mean, that
But yeah,
was
Donald Trump was Donald Trump. I'm sure he was doing beauty pageants and either building his casino or doing something at that time. So he was a name. At that point, he might have been at WrestleMania a handful of times.
yeah, the Trump Plaza and Hotel and Casino hosted WrestleMania 4 and 5, which was 88 and 89.
Okay.
And as much as our friend Evan Nolan, my co-host on the Hall of Fame show, despises Trump, not that I'm a Trump guy, I'm not. I'm not a guy of anybody in politics. But I will go to my deathbed saying, well, I won't. Actually, if that's what I say on my deathbed, my life really did suck. But I will say that there is no more accurate celebrity inductee to the WWE Hall of Fame than Donald Trump. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I mean,
of course, what does that really mean? It's the celebrity wing of the WWE Hall of Fame. And his competition was William the Refrigerator Perry, who we've talked about before, Drew Carey.
Oh, Cyndi Lauper in there?
Yeah, she's not in there.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
you know what? I take that back. That was true until Andy Kaufman. Because that's
okay.
All right. So, well, I got to come up with something new for my deathbed. That's going to be.
Kurt, you have plenty of time to come up with something.
I'm nearly the age of Georgia Haas here, so maybe not. Oh, God. Now we've got the worst part here to me. It's the entertainment. It's something that was probably shown earlier, but I guess now it's the full thing, because I guess this was shot out of sequence. It's DC Getchell singing the theme. And it's rock and roller games. This is the worst fucking song. And he wrote it, so I mean, somebody had to write this shit. All it was, we're gonna go here, rock and roller games. And then we're gonna go here. Well, they only ever went one place, so he lied at least 100 times, because they didn't go any of those places up. I looked to see if he did anything else. He did not. He did a couple other things. I found a picture of him after. It's like, and here's the other thing, kids. When you're losing your hair, it happens to all of us. I'm holding on, luckily. When you're balding, you can have some hair. It's okay. Bruce Willis moonlighting, check that out. He actually sort of, it was Bruce Willis, right? He could rock a lot of shit that a lot of people couldn't. But he never had shoulder length hair with zero on top.
I mean, again, going back to the looks, I mean, that was pretty much the Jesse the Body Ventura look going on right there.
I still say he raided Brutus Beefcake's robe or like outfit, because I'm sure I can find, and I'm going to find an image of that where he's wearing nearly the exact same jacket, and he's out there singing. I wonder how much Chet Forte had to do some work to get all these people like happy for this. Like maybe they're pumping like pot in the air or something. I don't know. Or as you come in here, do a bump. It's okay, kids. It's California, so it's very possible. Well, he later eventually.
So there you go.
I found a picture of him after. So he later eventually did shave his head, but also grew a full walrus mustache and wore glasses. So he went from
clinging.
Well, I'm just saying he went from a Ben and Jerry reject to hey kids, want to see candy in my van? I'm not saying that DC is on the registry, but I'm not saying he's not. How many lawsuits can I get? Well, okay, I'm not in the United States, so send them to Glenn Paslawski.
Sure.
All right, so before we have our final, which is going to be the T-Birds against the Violators, we get finally a montage on the T-Birds, and we get a pep talk from Ralphie. And part of their pep talk is they're going to jump out of an airplane. Well, we see some.
I didn't understand that whatsoever, what that had to do with roller derby. Or
being all-American either.
Or better yet, the guy jumping out without a parachute. Please do not jump out of an airplane without a parachute.
Yes, they had a PSA because he Because Ralphie told him, okay, you're going to do it without a parachute. Okay. And he did in front of a green screen, thankfully. And he goes, hey, what's taking everybody so long? And they just did, Glenn's not lying. They did a PSA crawl saying, kids, don't do this. Not the first PSA we're going to have here, or the first crawl. Well, we now see the montage of the violators. Well, I guess they're all bikers, but they like to ride their bikes only in sound stages. They pray to one god, according to Skull, and that's Gamba. Eh?
Yeah, that got weird.
I don't know what that meant. And then he says, they're so scary, they give Freddy nightmares. Okay.
Freddie Mercury? I'm sorry. I'll leave again. Let me know when I can come back.
The only thing that gave Freddie Mercury nightmares were blood tests. No?
Oh.
Oh, Freddie won't sue.
No, he won't. Children, look him up online and you'll figure out why he can't sue.
Well, I guess because another one did bite the dust. Well, the finals will have 4 periods, which is how all future episodes are. And this is how it's always going to be going forward. First are men, second are women, third are women, fourth are men. Mr. Mean goes up first against Speedy Gonzalez, and Mr. Mean dominates with a reverse stranglehold.
He's dirty.
He's a dirty player. They comment, and then he does it the same thing to Ralphie. Well, they say that again, that Ralphie should become the first inductee into the Roller Sports Hall of Fame. We talked about that before, but there isn't one. Cycle 2 sees Speedy against Shifty Zendejas, goes better for the T-Birds, and Elusiveness sees 2 violators collide. Oh, man, how'd that happen? Mr. Mean hates us, and he attacks Speedy from behind. T-Birds are now leading 13-11. Greg Robertson from the Violators against Billy Bob. I don't remember Billy Bob from the T-Birds. Well, maybe that was the reason I don't remember, because this was good for the Violators. But right after, Ralphie pushes Mr. Mean into the killer, and we get a visual spot where Mr. Mean is looming over Ralphie afterwards, and he runs away when the icebox shows up. Man, hopefully he doesn't want that deep freeze. I don't blame him for that.
No.
Our next cycle sees Hook rack up points where Ralphie just can't get going because he's stuck in a giant pile. And with the women up next, it's the Violators 27 and the T-Birds 15. After that, we see a package on Mr. Mean, and it was all pre-taped, and they do one thing where he goes completely over the wall of death.
Yeah.
So going back to that, whoever takes the biggest bump, right? From what I could tell, because like all the skaters were in different outfits, I think it was their mid-season all-star game. The Western Alliance versus the Eastern, I guess Axis versus Allies, kids. I don't know. I mean, why am I saying that to kids? They don't know what Axis versus Allies are.
Well, they might if they paid attention.
When they see about World War III trending on Twitter, they'll, what do you mean there was 1 and 2? When did this happen? Well, that's all about Hitler. No, Hitler's Trump. That's the same guy, isn't it? No. Well, okay. We don't have an audience under 20, so I'm really not too concerned here. All right, starting of the second cycle with the women, it's Skinny Minnie against Sweet Stephanie, and she does a lot better. And Sweet Stephanie is upset after and she throws Minnie over the railing. The next cycle is Debbie McCorkle versus the Flea, and McCorkle's got that bad ankle, so she doesn't do well, and the Flea gets more points. Nancy Wilkerson of the Violators against Go-Go of the T-Birds, and Wilkerson is pushed over the railing, but Sweet Stephanie gets shots at Go-Go and is thrown over the railing again. Skinny Minnie Allen's she's upset, and she comes from behind, and I wrote a victory roll Sweet Stephanie over. It's like a reverse or a front Hurricane Rana. Is the best way I can describe it. Man, she might have been over 40 again. Skinny Minnie next against the Flea, and Minnie dumps the Flea over the railing, and just 2 loops, 2 loops later, she maneuvers Flea into Sweet Stephanie. They collide, and just like great heels do, they yell at each other. Oh my God, there's dissension within the ranks. This is awful. What are they? They just can't get their shit together. Scores, and they slice in the lead at halftime. It's 42-40 only for the Violators. Now, Shelly's here. She interviews Ralphie and Bill Griffiths Jr. And Georgia Haas interrupts and says it should be her team against the Violators in the finals. Wally George is back and points the finger at Georgia Haas, Skull, and Guru Drew for the alligator controversy. They're the unholy three. So that would be like what, Hitler, Mussolini, and Hirohito?
Yes, the unholy three.
Well, there you go. They're being interviewed, and then Bill Griffith Sr., the commissioner, shows up, and he's not too happy that innocent creatures, the alligators, are part of this. Like, wait a minute. All right, so your son's the owner / manager of another team, and you're going to be impartial? I'm calling shenanigans on this. I think I'm siding with the unholy three here. And for the record, I just want to point out that's Georgia, Guru Drew, and Skull, not Hitler, Mussolini, and Hirohito. I'm part German, so I needed to sort of like put that caveat out there. You never know, how you can be perceived.
We're all caught up.
Okay. Wally, I think he's got a catchphrase, and he says to all of them, "You're out of here." I think he must have done that in his own show. We get what I called a masturbatory piece and how great the production is. And Chet Forte is there, and he looks as sleazy as what I read. So I wonder who he sort of came. You think he sort of like came up to some of these skaters and just said, "You want more television time?"
I would have no doubt. Either some of the skaters or some of the cheerleaders or whoever.
Probably did. All right, well, moving on. So it's starting off the third cycle. We got Flea versus Debbie McCorker. Is she injured? Why are they having her do this? What?
I don't buy that she's really injured.
Well, but okay, they said that she's got a hurt ankle. Now they say that she's legally blind, but in her left, she was at one point legally blind, but now in her left eye she can see. Like, what the hell is this? I got a blind gimp on my team?
She can see, but can only detect shades or colors in one eye, and yeah, that's it's like that poor dog in the shelter that should be put down.
Get the Sarah McLachlan commercial in my head. I honestly think that commercial keeps her out of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Really?
Yeah. When you think of Sarah McLachlan, the first thing you think about is animals looking sad.
For a certain generation of individuals, yes. When I hear Sarah McLachlan, I just revert to Lilith Fair.
I think there's more people thinking of hurt animals than Lilith Fair.
Okay. It's possible.
I don't know. That's just me and my little circle.
You need to put a poll up on Twitter if Twitter's still in existence.
Twitter, sure. There's always going to be something up against Twitter. Like, well, what is it now? Threads. Yeah, we'll see how that works.
Is there Blue Sky? Is that the other one?
I mean, right now there's more. The circle of people I've met are on Twitter, so I'm just going to stick with that until they all tell me they're leaving.
Exactly, and I'm too lazy to do another account. I mean, when you've lived through Friendster, MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I mean, I'm done with it.
It's only controversial if you're political, and I'm not on Twitter, so.
I'm going to go into old man mode and say I'm not moving.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Well, anyways, we got special needs here. Going up against Flea or something, yeah, and somehow Flea and Sweet Stephanie whack into each other again because they're just not on the same page
in the finals. That happened a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, the next cycle is mostly Electric Randy. She's stopping the Violators jammer from advancing. Stephanie's upset, and we got another cat fight come out. That's what they called it, kids. I'm not being sexist. That's what they called it. And it kind of was because they weren't really punching. They were pulling hair. That's I don't know what it was. But Corkle's doing another one again, which is I don't understand how it's McCorkle versus Lee. I wonder just how they shoot this. But I mean, I guess you can make it make anything happen. Flea ate an elbow from Electric Randy. We got one cycle left for the women. Sweet Stephanie versus Skinny Minnie. Sweet Stephanie gets whipped so hard she tumbles before the wall of death. So she comes back, breaks the rules, and Minnie drives her into the Flea. But that didn't. So again, for the third time in 5 minutes, those two are arguing. The women are done, and the T-Birds took the lead, 60-57. Shelly's interviewing Skinny Minnie and Sweet Stephanie again, and they're on other sides, and I don't care. Blah, 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 blah. Finally getting into the final period, and we've got a George Michael impersonator there. Or they just say nothing. They don't say, they don't, and that's brilliant. Don't you say, hey, is that? Because if you acknowledge it, then you
they just let the viewers figure it out.
Right, but it's not like people were recording shit back then a whole lot either.
No, there was no TiVo, there was no DVRs. I don't know how many people were putting in their VHS recorders and recording this. But yeah. So you're watching.
That's perfect. You see that? Like, wait, was that? Rewind. Like, well, I can't. It's live. I guarantee you, there were some kids at the water cooler on Monday saying, "Look, I'm telling you, that was George Michael there." I don't know. In 1989, they were saying that about Burt Reynolds, but
probably not.
Probably not. All right, so final period begins. We got Hook versus Ralphie, and Hook gets bogged down, and Ralphie does the wall and jump unevaded. Arton, I don't think he could even do that. We hadn't seen him do it, but he did.
He did it.
And Mr. Mean he's the MVP. I mean, he's just making it look like Ralphie can just dance around him, and he's just going, it's Shawn Michaels level selling.
Yeah, well choreographed.
Oh, Mr. Mean's the best. And he had to be 40, so good on him. T-Birds are now extend their lead to 66-57. We got Tony Trujillo versus Speedy Gonzalez. Enforcer racks up a bunch of points. Cheap shot Speedy, and on the way back does a double knee drop on Speedy. Oh, that's just not good. But it's still 70-65 T-Birds. Dynamite Daryl versus Robinson. Robinson's doing well, but we have a lame bit where he pretends to ask for a whip while he's moving backwards, and he propels himself over the barricade. But it's still good, but it's only now 72-71 for the T-Birds. Enforcer and Dynamite remain the jetters. Mr. Mean clotheslines Dynamite after the jump. Oh, God. Ralphie uses defense and hip checks the Enforcer, and we're tied. It's 76 all last cycle.
You know what happens if we're tied.
Oh, yeah, so let's see what goes on here. It's Mr. Mean versus Ralphie. But nobody can get past a skater after they do the jump. It's all clogged. I mean, just wonderful defense. And they say defense wins games.
They win championships.
Win championships, and we're tied at 80.
No matter what the stats say, defense wins championships.
Yes. Well, the Gators are coming. Well, this isn't just any handler of a Gator. He's got 8 dancers with him. And he dances too. Did they get this guy from Chippendales? I just watched Secret of Chippendales from Hulu, like on Hulu. What else could this be? I think they're regurgitating the same dancers. But it's the cheesiest routine, and then, well, Animal's supposed to take care of the alligator, but he doesn't even bring in the fucking alligator. 6 other guys do it.
Yeah, that's maybe he's just the alligator whisperer. He's not exactly a handler.
That could, I never thought of that. That's why I have a co-host, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have this great insight.
We'll go with that.
Sure. Well, a crawl comes down, like as they're all dancing. Crawl comes out on below. Sudden death will begin once the. I love the tongue-in-cheek shit bit here. Once the gratuitous roller gator dance is over. That's great.
At least you know what you're doing, and you're owning it.
That is awesome. Well, sudden death rules. So each team is going to assign a designated roller skater. They must a gator skater. They must complete 6 laps or throw the designated skater into the pit. Commentators say there's 4 gators, but I don't think there was.
I don't think 4 gators could fit in that pit.
I think there was only the one.
There might have been 2. I don't know. I'd have to go back and check the tape.
So before this, I mean, I knew that they actually only implored the gators once, and it was in the pilot. And I didn't remember who won. I just like was going through all that because like the Wikipedia doesn't actually say who won what. It just says who's against who. So I thought, man, I mean, like, I'm thinking, okay, Mr. Mean seems like he's gonna do anything. Sweet Stephanie will do shit. But like, are you gonna pay them to go and do this? Like, who are they? Which one of them? I thought for sure it's got to be Mr. Mean. He seems like the guy who's gonna do that. No,
okay, but let's get to the caveat.
Yeah, well, this is the best part. All right, so we've got a lizard mask, the designated lizard mask. So it's 2 people. We don't know who they are. They never. So
they were handlers.
It's gotta be.
Which one of you 4 alligator handlers can skate? Well, none of us can skate.
None of them skated. They just went right to trying to put one through the pit over the pit. And so we don't know who they were. I know it wasn't Mr. Mean because Mr. Mean was cheering them on. So anyway,
had to be because when the one guy went in, if you noticed, and I don't know if this is an alligator handler thing, but he was tickling the under mouth on the alligator, and I don't know whether that was a common thing for an alligator. So if you're in a pit with an alligator, give him a little under the chin rub to calm him down, or what that was all about. But yeah, those were both handlers. Had to be.
Oh, well, somebody who just knew that the alligator knew the touch, because I'm not saying alligators can smile, but sure looked like this alligator was smiling. Like, hey, Frank,
having a good time. This is my buddy.
Yeah, pretty weird shit, huh? What's my cut? Just fish? Okay, I like fish. That's pretty good. I can't spend money anyway, so I'll take the fish. So anyway, the Violators win with an unknown skater. The post-match interviews with the T-Birds, they're going to get him next year. And Ralphie and Bill say there's no place for alligators in roller derby, and that's Birdie. I did it again, derby. And that's where they said Bob Barker would be pissed.
Yes. Tell me, why would Bob Barker be pissed?
I don't know.
Were the alligators not spayed or neutered after the show? Were they fornicating in the alligator pit?
Yeah, I don't think the alligator got to fornicate because I think there was only the one. I don't think there was 4. You said 3 that are 7 feet and 1 that are 10.
There's no way that pit could hold a 10-foot alligator.
But we know that the Commissioner's Cup is gonna be up for grabs next year. By the way, the Commissioner Cup, Avco Cup. What do you think?
Yeah, gotta go with the hockey.
Gotta go with the Avco Cup?
Okay. Gotta go with the hockey.
Where is the Commissioner Cup now? That'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, no, there's got to be someone we can write to.
Next to Mr. Mean's wheelchair.
You're thinking he's got to be in a wheelchair.
Yeah. He was taking all the bumps.
He was. So now, do we think this was a nice progression from the traditional roller derby? I think it was a great concept of the figure 8, but I would have liked to see them all have to go through the figure 8, and you have to incorporate the whole figure 8 within the whole passing scenario as opposed to just the little circle that they kept the rest of the participants in that you had to pass.
I read that in Texas they tried to like set up a whole league, like a real league of roller derby.
There are in Buffalo and Southern Ontario, there's roller derby leagues.
Like real?
Yeah, mostly women. And yeah, at Buffalo River Works, there's or there used to be. I don't know if they've gotten back to going post pandemic. And then yeah, Southern Ontario, I knew a woman who was big into roller derby up there, and they would travel and play against people.
I don't know. It's actually one of my favorite underappreciated sports films is with the now Elliot Page, Whip It.
Never seen Whip It.
It's I really like that movie, actually. Check that out, sports movie fans, if you haven't, and you probably haven't. A lot of people didn't. You wouldn't think that someone that short can be somewhat believable there, but there's sort of a line in there because Kristen Wiig's in that, and she says to I'm just gonna say Ellen Page because that's well, it's Bliss Cavendish. That's the character name.
I'm the actress was Ellen Page.
Yeah, at the time, yeah, and says just be your own hero, kind of like that.
I will have to watch.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think who else is in that? Might have been the girl from Arrested Development as her best friend.
Okay.
I don't remember her name.
Yeah.
I always confuse her with Juno Temple, even though they look nothing alike.
Marsha Gay Harden, Kristen Wiig, Drew Barrymore was in it.
Oh, I forgot.
Juliette Lewis.
I think it was
Jimmy
Drew Barrymore. I think it was her film.
Daniel Stern. That's not a bad cast.
No, I mean, it didn't. Like, I only seen it twice, and that was a long, long time ago. But I remember enjoying it. And you can actually vote for Bliss Cavendish, aka Babe Ruthless, on the fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame, which has more credibility than the World Association of Roller Derby Hall of Fame. Mine exists.
They have a roller derby Hall of Fame thingy.
Didn't then.
Well, no, you're right. Eventually, they got around to it.
They got around to it. So this is the part, where much like Icebox, I'm gonna plug.
What kind of plug?
I'm gonna plug other things in the Buchnerverse. In the Buchnerverse. So another regular show that we do is How the Hell Was This a Hit? The last one we just recorded, we did that last night. My partners on that, Brad Nelson and Andrea Tessman, they were not nice to me. They were very mean. They did not see the joy that I see in Stacey Q when we looked at Two of Hearts.
Two of Hearts.
She was cinnamon. You know how you know you're really getting old?
You'll tell us how you know you're really getting old.
When the women you used to like beat off to are now approaching 65. That's how you know she's 64 and it's really depressing. And then I saw what she sort of looks like now. And here's the thing about Stacey Q in 1986 and Stacey Q in 2023. In every year, I don't think she ever ate anything.
No, you're right about that.
So she hasn't eaten anything now, and it's sort of weird seeing this 64-year-old woman, because you can find footage of her sort of dancing around and like doing her Two of Hearts bit and like 80s circuits, but she sort of like wanders the stage and half lip syncs and then half yells. And
hey, she's gotten a little older.
Yeah, well, you got to see like just YouTube, like her, like Stacey Q 2023 singing. Is
it painful?
Well, I'm not masturbating to her anymore. I'll say that.
and we're all happy to know that, Kirk.
I don't really do that much anymore anyway. Yeah, but that's sort of how you know you're older. Next one we're doing is, I didn't pick this one. The Proclaimers 500 miles.
It's a song.
It's a song, all right. So well, that's what we're gonna do next. So we got that. There's also the weekly show with Evan Nolan, where we look at Hall of Fame related news. When we record tonight, it'll be the semifinalists of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, or the seniors and coaches thing. Did you see who came out for that?
I did not see that.
Okay, yeah. So there's that's come out. We'll see. We'll see what sort of comes from there. At least they're telling people about that. And speaking of Pro Football Hall of Fame, I just started on Glenn's a voter on that, and you might want to be too. It is we're called the Pro Football Hall of Fame Revisited, where we are acting as if we are the Hall of Fame body, but starting it if it was 1946 as opposed to 1963, which is when the Pro Football Hall of Fame actually started. The reason it's from 1946 is that is 25 years from the day or from the year that the Pro Football Hall of Fame started. Well, class of 46, because that's sort of the way that works out. And seeing how much of a difference that it makes, we will be sending out ballots for the semis shortly. Chasing people for ballots is fun. I love doing that. But
I got mine in on time.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. So we're looking at that, and it's a fun process for people who really are into pro football, its history, and the Hall of Fame. So there's that. Vinny always comes back. That's Vinny Lospanu, so he makes the Hall of Fame case for it, and sometimes it's random people, and sometimes it's people that are really interesting. He's done a really good job with that. The last one he did was on Pudge Heffelfinger. No, sorry. The last one he did was on Don Cherry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that should be going up soon. And him and I, we listened while we were doing that to the coach's corner that got Don Cherry essentially fired.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
and sort of taking.
I missed that one.
I mean, what got him fired?
I missed the coach's corner that got him fired.
Yeah, I never actually heard it until we played it and listened to it. Essentially, it was a rant on how people around where he lives and in downtown Toronto don't wear the poppy.
Okay.
And
I think I remember about that.
Yeah, and for those who wonder what the hell I'm talking about, on November 11th every year in Canada, we have Remembrance Day, and the poppy is significant towards Flanders Field because in World War I, Canada played a huge part in helping to liberate the Netherlands. So, and there's a lot of poppies there. So every year, a lot of Canadians wear a poppy, like a little plastic poppy. And he decided that he would say that to new Canadians, well, how come you're not wearing the damn poppy? And he pointed out around where he lived and in downtown Toronto, and they're generally, it was one thing when he sort of insulted Swedes. There's not an anti-Swedish defamation league here in Canada. Maybe there is. I haven't met them yet, but there might be. It's quite another when you're kind of targeting a group because the area where he lives is very South Asian. And in Toronto, so, and Indian Canadians as British allies or British territory, whatever you want to call it, did certainly play a lot of role in participating in said wars. So that was pretty much the excuse that Sportsnet or TSN, I forget who, Rogers anyway, needed to fire him. My argument was, this is the guy you're paying the most money to, and he's there 2 minutes a week. And if he was gone, would it really affect ratings? And it didn't. But anyway, Don Cherry, it was a great show. So we really talked a lot about what Don Cherry at one point meant to Canadian hockey, which is a hell of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be up soon. And there's another show that should start soon, and it's When Athletes Sing.
Carl Lewis?
Oh, yes. And it's going to be where it's going to be a live reaction where I'm making people watch When Athletes Sing or rap.
You know who was and I don't know whether it was last season or the season before, but Malcolm Subban. can sing. He was up. He did the national anthem in Buffalo.
We want to see when they can't. That's when it's more fun.
I know, but just to see the surprise on his teammates' faces, watching him sing the national anthem were just hysterical. If you can get a footage of that.
I talked to former NBA player Terry Cummings.
Okay.
And he did a national anthem once. He could sing. Now, granted, it's singing a song that is established is a lot different than saying, you know what, I can write one too, and I can produce it. I don't know what the first episode will be. I'm looking at either when the Los Angeles Rams as a group in 1985, as their counter to the Super Bowl Shuffle, did Ram It. No,
I have no recollection of that.
I'll send you that. It is something that I found an oral history thing of. All their grandkids say, like, Grandpa, what are you doing? It's awful. It's really, really bad. Super Bowl Shuffle stunk too, but Chicago won the whole thing. So it's different. There's actually even one worse around the same era. The Los Angeles Dodgers doing Baseball Boogie.
I am not aware of that one either.
It's even cheesier. Pedro Guerrero does Baseball been better good to me. There's old Jerry Royce, who looked old then. Of course, I'm like 15 years older than he was then. Just doing like the dances. It's shitty. And no, I can't dance either. But yeah, which is why I don't.
And the world thanks.
The other one too. Check out Tony Parker as when he did his French rap album.
Oh, a French rap album.
Yeah, it's not very good. There's just so many possibilities. When Terry Bradshaw put out a country album in the late 70s.
I have recollections of that, or hearing of it. I was well aware of that.
Chris Webber's album's terrible.
Didn't know he put out one.
Yeah. It's just I don't, obviously it's not infinite because that's an incorrect use of that word. And I am an English major. Huh? Yeah, see, there you go. Like, it did finally come in handy 30
Absolutely.
years later. But yeah. Yeah, there's just so many awful ones. Usually it's all basketball and rappers, but I found someone else here too in Winnipeg here, and I'm going to get him to help me out with that. That my best friend back in Toronto. So that should be good. You're going to be a guest on that one.
I'm being voluntold.
You're voluntold. Yes, for that one. What else is here in the Buchnerverse? What am I missing? That's it.
Any various Hall of Fames you forgot to plug?
Nah, I'm done plugging.
Okay.
I don't want to.
Right spots.
I'm old. I'm tired. I can only plug for a couple minutes now.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And with that, wherever you are, wherever you may be, I guess the hate mail goes to me. Leave Glenn out of it, but
we're equally available.
There you go. Stay safe, everybody.